Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and today we are talking about brush lettering with Crayola markers. And I use Crayola markers for brush lettering, for just coloring in my letters if I do them a little bit differently, if I do like outlines, for creating drop shadows on my letters, and for getting some watercolor effects because they are kind of water soluble. It's 50 colors, guys. 50 colors, and I think it was like $7 at Target. So yeah, you can't beat this. Come on. So let me show you some of my brush lettering tips and how I use markers to achieve that brush lettering look. Alright guys, so I have two different Crayola markers here. There are some more available, but these are the two that I usually use the most. They are Super Tips, which is this thin one right here. And then they have Pipsqueaks, which are these little cute ones that supposedly squeak when you use them on paper. But I just like these little ones because they're just like so cute and you can just like throw it in a purse. So as you can see though, the tips are much different in size. One is a lot smaller and the other one is quite a bit bigger. So use this one if you're doing large letters on a bigger scale, and then this one, the Super Tips, if you're just doing regular hand lettering, something similar to like Tumbo markers or something like that, I would choose these thin tips. All right, so the first rule about lettering with Crayola markers, and especially if you're trying to achieve that brush lettering look, is to make sure to rotate your hand as you're doing your lettering. This is because the tips are not flexible, and you can see here the Tumbo is gonna give you a lot of a thicker line on a downstroke because there's just more tip to it. It's got a longer, sharper tip, and it's flexible, whereas Crayolas are not very flexible, so you have to use them a little bit differently, but it's totally doable, guys, once you kind of get a hang of it. With a Tumbo, you would simply hold it like this, go very lightly on an upstroke, and then keep your hand the same way, and then just press really hard to get that thick downstroke. But with a Crayola, it's not flexible like that, so it doesn't do it that well. So you can still get a nice thin upstroke, but you have to hold it a little bit straighter. So where you would hold a Tumbo like this, a Crayola you would hold a little bit straighter, and you would get your nice thin upstroke, and it's super nice and thin over here. But then to get that thick downstroke, you have to lay your brush down on its side a little bit more. There. So when doing strokes on letters and stuff like that, you have to keep remembering that on downstrokes, not only do you press a little bit harder, but you have to kind of angle your hand a little bit differently. So you would go from straight up to kind of laying it on its side to go back down. So that does take a little bit of practice, just because you have to kind of rotate your hand as you're doing this. And if you're doing whole words, sentences, more than just these strokes, you're gonna have to break up your letters into individual strokes and focus on each one, and then lift your hand off the paper as much as possible. So for letters like this, you would break it up into individual strokes and kind of focus on those a little bit more separate, just because you have to kind of lift your marker up because you have to reposition your hand to kind of keep doing that up and down thing. Plus you have to rotate your actual marker in your hand, like spin it like this, because what you can see here, if I do a downstroke, you're gonna see that the tip is now bent. You can see that now it's pointing up instead of straight. So you would rotate it and have the sharp tip pointing down to your paper when doing the next upstroke, so that your nice thin upstrokes are as thin as you can get them. So those are my number one tips. Hold it straight up and down to get the thinnest upstroke you can. Lay it on its side and press a little harder to get the thickest line you can. Break up your letters and words into as many single brush strokes as possible so that you can keep lifting your marker up and rotating it
in your hand like this, just spinning it so you get that tip to point down for those thin upstrokes.
Alright, so that's it for today's little video on brush lettering with Crayola markers. I hope you learned some tips and tricks on how to achieve that beautiful brush lettering look. And if you like this video, please hit like below and please subscribe so that you don't miss any other videos from me. And of course, check out the links below this video for more lettering resources. Bye!